The zodiac sign of Scorpio, excerpted from the book Nuova Guida all'Astrologia by Ciro Discepolo, Volume 1, water sign, fixed, feminine, negative, ruled by Mars and Pluto. Period. October 23rd to November 21st. Scorpio is the 8th sign of the zodiac and spans from 210 to 240 degrees. In certain respects, it is the most esoteric of the 12 signs, being linked to the concepts of death and resurrection. It stands opposite Taurus, which may, as previously seen, is the ultimate expression of life, related to the force of nature and the undifferentiated sensuality evidenced by the domicile of Venus. By opposition, Scorpio is the sign of death, metamorphosis and rebirth, in harmony with the attributes of one of its rulers, Pluto. In mythology, the latter represented the underworld, the kingdom of the dead, and the depths. Its other lord is Mars, to whom the igneous characteristics of the sign are owed, characteristics that are in several ways in contrast with the element of water, to which these 30 zodiacal degrees belong. Scorpio is indeed a water sign, and it is fixed because during its annual period no season begins or ends. The water to which it is analogically linked is that of marshes and ponds matter, in a state of putrefaction and decomposition. The seasonal reference is marked. We are between late October and late November, when leaves turn yellow and fall, nature dies all around, and darkness experiences its longest period. Yet this is not a definitive death, but rather the cusp of a cycle that closes only to begin again immediately after. Death, therefore, as catharsis and renewal. The typological values derived from these premises, given the connections with the attributes water, fixed, feminine, and negative, as well as the dual rulership of Mars and Pluto, are sensitivity, sometimes even paranormal, determination, strength of character, energy, individualism, a sense of command, a vindictive spirit, interest in criminology and the world of true crime, resonance with the element of sex, destructive and self-destructive feelings, sadomasochism, and a tendency to live in a complicated manner. In contemporary literature, James Bond, and in religious iconography of all times, the devil can represent with some precision one pole of the Scorpio archetype. However, one must not forget the opposite pole represented by the saint, and the long series of intermediate shades between the two that, while distinct, are always relatable to the aforementioned core symbology. From what has been said so far, the link between the life-death axis and the sign of Scorpio is evident. Even sex, so vital in the lives of these subjects, must be framed in this light, as Eros is life itself. At this point, a distinction must be made. In a certain widely diffused parlor astrology, Scorpio, whether man or woman, is often depicted as a sort of satyr, ready to unleash at the first sexual call. This is only partially true. Firstly, it is often a question of quantity, and in this the average Scorpio follows other signs such as Sagittarius, Aries, and Taurus. Secondly, Scorpio's drive is mostly eroticism, that is, sex of the mind, not to be confused with sensuality, which is the more physiological expression of this human activity. Finally, and most importantly, one must consider that Scorpio is in resonance with sex, but this does not necessarily mean they are a consumer of it. Often, indeed very often, we find representatives of this sign who are true champions of anti-sex crusades. Ranks of frigid wives, impotent husbands, ideal soldiers of the Salvation Army, intransigent moralists, and people who flinch at the mere word sex, are just as representative of the sign as those who, on the contrary, behave as if only sex existed. In both cases, the theme is deeply felt and characterizes the subject. Psychophysical energy is perhaps the most significant value of the sign, as noted by psychologist Luigi Aurigemma in the book Il segno dello Scorpioni, Einaudi ed. Natives of the eighth zodiacal emanation are born fighters who, especially in their youth, find in sports an ideal outlet for their excess energy. Whether a soldier or an athlete, a policeman or a dentist, a merchant or a student, Scorpio always seeks competition. A comfortable and banal life bores them, and they have a taste for the spicy side of things. They tend to exceed in almost everything they do, and often behind this frenzy lies an unconscious desire for self-destruction. Thus we have the smoker, who lights one cigarette with the butt of the last all day, the unrivaled drinker, the night owl who gambles until dawn, and then goes to work without sleep, and so on. These tendencies are heightened if other centrifugal relaxing elements are present in the specific chart, for example, a dominant Mars, Venus, or Jupiter. Conversely, when there are signals of blockage, such as Virgo at the ascendant or Saturn conjunct the moon, we find an individual who is particularly well-mannered, kind, impeccable in behavior, measured, precise, and industrious, the saint mentioned earlier, the serpent-turned-eagle. In both cases, regardless of the outer mask, the same underlying nature remains, which also includes a vindictive spirit. Scorpio, more than any other sign, broods over its revenge for a long time, and is capable of carrying it out cold, even after years of waiting. In love, Scorpio is complicated, and even if they do not reach the described excesses, tends to experience turbulent relationships that involve at least a hint of mystery or torment. Their sexuality is often sophisticated and sometimes pathological. They are jealous and possessive like few others. In a partnership, they tend to command. If they choose a domineering partner, storms inevitably arise, leading most often to a breakup. Their worst enemy in love, as in other areas, is boredom. If a sentimental bond no longer stimulates them because it fails to renew itself, there is a danger of shipwreck, with Scorpio setting sail for other shores. At work, Scorpio gives their absolute best, often proving superlative. Ambitious and inclined to lead, they are capable of grueling marathons to earn their just reward. Those by their side struggle to keep their pace. The professions in which they succeed best are those that allow the greatest space for their personality. They make for a poor clerk but an excellent manager. This evaluation refers only to practical efficiency. From a human point of view, they can be somewhat tyrannical with subordinates. They do not like collective decisions and prefer to take responsibility personally, even against the will of collaborators. Furthermore, they love competition and thus end up enjoying a climate of tension created around them in the workplace. In their case, professional choice should also aim to allow a daily exercise of that aggressiveness, destructivity bordering on sadism mentioned earlier. In this light, choices in dentistry, surgery, sports, the military, and the police appear highly suitable. Whether pulling a tooth or butchering meat, Scorpio fulfills a moral and estimable social task, but also manages by coloring the act with the right feelings to gratify the Mr. Hyde within. From a pathological standpoint, Scorpio is related to the organs of reproduction and excretion, again the life-death axis. They are particularly vulnerable to venereal diseases and hemorrhoids. However, what affects them most is stress due to excesses of all kinds. A heart attack can be the classic outcome of their exaggerations. Psychic stress is also not to be underestimated, even though they are among the strongest, if not the strongest sign in the zodiac in absolute terms. Another weak point is the hair, which tends to fall out even at a young age. The Scorpio man appears well suited to the role he must fulfill in society. Intelligent, like the woman, this is perhaps the most intelligent sign of the zodiac, he always seeks to impose his presence. If he cannot do so by right, he manages through cunning. Both at home and abroad he demands to be obeyed, and this is certainly his greatest limit. Usually he loves his partner with passion, and his children even more. He often lives the contradiction of being unfaithful and jealous at the same time. The woman of the sign is a passionate person full of energy, with which she burns the hours of her day, whether she works outside the home or as a housewife. In the latter case, she equals the efficiency of Taurus and Cancer women. If she is a feminist, she represents a formidable adversary for men, who do not fail to notice the spice that characterizes her. In any case, Scorpio women are usually charming, witty, and easygoing. Sometimes they have problems with motherhood, which they may tend to reject unconsciously. If they belong to the type that accepts a strong inner sexual call, they must wisely choose a partner. If he is not sufficiently virile, the relationship is destined to fail. In the opposite case, they must seek a very patient partner who takes life philosophically. The Scorpio child is the one who most embarrasses parents with questions about sex from a very tender age. In this respect, the pedagogical role is vital for their development. What they need most is the practice of moderation, as they are ideal extremists. Their great vitality and courage can be a danger in recreational life, where they might imitate risky roles. Sports are the best medicine for them, especially swimming and other disciplines, with low risks of accidents. The compensated Scorpio. As mentioned above, the classic Scorpio is fundamentally unpleasant, mostly aggressive and overbearing. The compensated type instead stands out for great charm, amiability, and availability toward others. They are generally liked by everyone at first impact and win almost universal external applause. They make themselves loved and inspire trust. They are great company and put everyone at ease. In almost all cases, everyone is won over by them. They rarely create tension around themselves, and their behavior usually follows the tracks of sainthood. Particularly significant Scorpio subjects from the collection in the appendix. Number 4, 5, 6, 10, 15, 18, 23, 24, 29, 32, 37, 38, 41, 43, 44, 49, 53, 57, 67, Sigmund Freud, 74, Benito Mussolini, 75, Papillon, 76, Pablo Picasso, 79, Amintore Fanfani, 80, Indro Montanelli, 82, Claudia Cardinale, 86, Giuseppe Saragat, 88, Charles de Gaulle, 92 Napoleon Bonaparte, 94 Meca Gandhi, 95 Winston Churchill, 99 Giovanni Leone,